Okay, so day 21 of the 100 press up challenge. How time has flown, and today I'm going to be talking about breakfast. Okay, so stop there at 30. So my relationship with breakfast, I want to refer to it in that way, has been up and down. Throughout my childhood, I never really had proper breakfast, partly because the commute to school was a long sort of hour and a half journey, so it would really be wake up straight out the door and off, and so that continued throughout university. But since then I've tried to get into habits of having breakfast or not, and I think because my working life has always been quite up and down with night shifts, on calls and unpredictable start times, I haven't been able to get into a habit about breakfast. And one thing that I've realised in the last 6-7 months since coming off the on-call rota and having some more consistency in my life is that consistency and predictability works really well for me. And so I've been experimenting with having a fixed regular breakfast every morning, which is just a bagel with cream cheese and salmon, or just cream cheese every morning, and that's been quite good. But I still haven't yet found the answer of, is breakfast a good meal to have? Is it a good one to skip? Or does it make no difference? Now, the old mantra of breakfast is the most important meal of the day, I thought that was a sort of a scientifically based sort of statement, but found out a year or so ago that it was a motto made up by sort of big cornflake, or the cereal industry, to try and get people to eat more breakfast cereals. And that was a bit disappointing that there's no real strength behind that recommendation. And a couple of times in the last few years when I've tried intermittent fasting, it almost mandates you to skip breakfast unless you have a really warped cycle and you stop eating very early in the day to restart your window by breakfast time. And so, different fads, different regimens either promote not having breakfast. Haven't come across one that does promote having breakfast, but I do get the rationale for having a breakfast, which is that it provides you with energy at the start of the day, which keeps you going. And I've not really found that to be an issue, because throughout my life not having breakfast, I've never found I'm out of energy. I find actually the amount of sleep I have is more important for my energy levels rather than my early morning nutrition. But one thing that I have picked up in the last few months since starting to have this regular breakfast is that it really reduces my amount of snacking in the first sort of 6 hours of the day. So previously I used to have biscuits, chocolates, whatever I could get my hands on through the morning, and I've been able to cut that out, partly through actively not having it, by making an active choice to try and eat healthier. But I think part of it is also because I'm not feeling as hungry. And that, I think, is because of this breakfast. Another 30, so up to 60. So I think one thing that has become quite clear to me is that the nutritional value of cereal, or the cereals that I used to have, is minimal. And so to try and convince myself that having an early morning breakfast and eating a bowl of cereal is not satisfactory, because it doesn't achieve, breaks the intermittent fasting. So if that's a priority, then that goes out the window. And if you're after sort of a good nutritional setup from early in the morning, the cereals like Crunchy Nut, Shreddies, things like that, I found do not give me that sense of satiety or fullness that stops me from snacking through the rest of the day. So it's sort of worst of both worlds. So what I have done is go for a more substantial breakfast, which is a bagel, ideally brown bread bagel, and a thin with some cream cheese and some salmon if I've got it, and a coffee and a biscuit or two as a sort of rounded meal, and that's been great so far. And so I think I'm going to continue that for a bit longer. I also think because I'm doing this workout in the morning, it's good to not do it completely on an empty stomach. And so, as the muscle is rebuilding after the use, it's good to have some circulating carbs and amino acids and things to help replenish that, so that it can all, I guess, heal and strengthen and grow with enough nutrition. So I think it allows me to be more comfortable about consistent morning exercise as well. So I think early morning nutrition and early morning exercise go well together. The couple of times when I've tried fasted exercise, maybe I've been able to do it for one day, but it's never been something that I've sustainably been able to do. And maybe one of the reasons is that lack of early morning nutrition. Okay, 25. So up to 85. Oh, so one thing which I'm not sure if I've mentioned yet is over the end of 2023, I used a glucose monitor, which was really insightful for me, because I've always wondered, given I'm Asian, given I have some visceral fat, whether I am pre-diabetic or have lots of spikes, so these insulin spikes and glucose spikes through my day, or just always been curious about what my glucose control actually looks like. And so that was really helpful. It showed me that cornflakes is really a no-no for me. It causes a really big spike in my glucose levels and a sharp drop, which I think is that sugar slump. And same actually if I have certain types of biscuits. So if I were to have two either Lotus biscuits or those nice sort of sweet sugary biscuits, even just 2 of them with my coffee, I see the same spike, and so I've cut those out. But the other thing that it showed me is that if I eat my dinner late, I get a really big spike at night time after I've gone to sleep, and it stays high through night. And again, I appreciate that there isn't much science around what these spikes mean, but it is something that intuitively I would want to reduce. And so what I've tried to do is try and eat earlier in the day. So I used to eat about 8-9 o'clock for my dinner. I'm now trying to do it around 6 o'clock. And that's been a gradual change over the last few months, simply to try and get that spike out of the way whilst I'm awake. And I also find it doesn't go up as high, so it allows me to get to bed earlier. And so with that earlier end of eating in the day, I think it makes sense for me to have something to eat early in the morning. And again, another thing that I've done, the final thing, is I've cut out intermittent fasting. I've decided not to do it anymore because, in my understanding, the data suggests that all the benefits you get from intermittent fasting are around the calorie restriction. And so rather than go for the intermittent fasting approach, I am trying to not really restrict my calories, that's not a goal for me, but it's to sort of optimize the types of foods that I have that overall prevent massive spikes in calorie amounts or fluctuations, but essentially just go for quality food. It's not a strict diet, but that's a sort of a better priority for me at the moment, and I enjoy it more rather than intermittent fasting, so I've cut that out as well. Yeah, but my glucose control actually was very good when I was intermittent fasting, and maybe it's something I'll come back to, but it's not something I feel I need to do right now, and especially with trying to do more exercise. I always found intermittent fasting was challenging. Well, I found that the exercise would go to the wayside when I was intermittent fasting because I just didn't have the energy. Okay, so I guess at the moment I'm saying yes to breakfast. We're going for something quite decent and nutritious, so nothing too controversial there, but I think it's the consistency of it that allows me to start my day well. That's 100 done. See you tomorrow.